Well, ladies and gentlemen, the conversation that we have in gaming lately has been around DEI, forced initiatives. When we talk about companies like BlackRock and Vanguard, you know, those companies that the conspiracy theorists say are just a conspiracy and doesn't exist. Yeah, those kind of companies. When we talk about DEI and all that nonsense going on in gaming right now and how it affects different studios, you normally have these studios come out and defend this stuff. And now we have another example of what that looks like. So we have an article here from That Park Place with a headline that reads, "No Rest for the Wicked game. Designer Alexander Brazy attempts to justify DEI hiring practices."
Well, isn't that special?
Now, I'm very curious as to the level of justification that this person, Alexander, actually did, because I'll be real with you. We see so many examples of mainstream gaming people come out and try to just straight up shill for fake DEI nonsense. And you have them doing it all the way to nausea. Like, it's ridiculous and they're completely disingenuous. It's almost always a white liberal talking about how other people are marginalized. And then when it comes to talks about perhaps replacing them with a diverse person so that they can get an opportunity, suddenly, well, that's just too close to home. So let's get into the article, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. It says Alexander, a game designer for No Rest for the Wicked and the owner of Automech Consulting, attempted to justify DEI hiring practices by lying about them. You know what, guys? Seriously, at this point, I have seen a ridiculous amount of consultancy groups that I really think that we should open up one. I think we should open up a consultancy firm, offer DEI consultancy, take everybody's money, because it seems like they're just giving it away. They're giving it away for terrible advice. They're giving it away for people that don't genuinely care about the project they're working on. They just want to shill and find issues so that way they can get paid. You know, when people talk about grifters, that is literally what it is. Like, the consultancy groups are the ultimate con men that are trying to sell this fake-ass diversity, fake-ass inclusion. They completely lie about all of it, and they end up making insufferable characters. They end up killing half of the games they work on, and the other half they might get lucky, or perhaps they might break even, but they end up doing more damage than they do good, and then you end up in a situation where they're taking your money for what? What are they doing? Like, you just added an extra cost for no reason. Like, I don't understand why Square Enix, for example, is hiring a consultancy group when they've made black characters so easily in the past that people have loved, and now all of a sudden you involve a consultancy group and nobody likes the character. Gee, I wonder why that is. It says, as reported by Packer Girl, shout out to Packer Girl, Brazy commented on a post from War Dog Studios CEO Jade Law, stating that let's have an honest conversation about DEI hiring. Yeah, that's how you know it's not going to be honest, by the way. Not to be confused with diverse content. People don't seem to really understand these policies, so let's discuss. Listen, when a CEO or somebody in the mainstream gaming industry wants to tell you, let's have an honest conversation, yeah, that's not happening. You're not going to get honesty. What you're about to get is full PR speak. It says she then defined what she means by DEI, albeit her definition is not how major corporations such as the Walt Disney Company and Amazon define it. Nevertheless, she defines it, writing, DEI policies are aimed to promote fairness and encouraging the hiring and advancement of underrepresented groups as a means of tackling bias and prejudice. What do you mean bias and prejudice? Why? I don't understand why people are trying to force non-white people into areas that they don't necessarily want to be in, right? We know that there is a lot of people of certain backgrounds that are just notoriously good at certain things, right? When you have that joke, that very stereotypical joke of the Indian scam caller or the Indian technician or the guy who works in cybersecurity, whatever the case may be, they make that joke, or the Asian doctor, you know what I mean? Like, they know that there is certain paths that certain groups take on average. Now, that's obviously not the entire norm, but I'm just saying that there's nothing wrong with knowing that certain stereotypes are absolutely true. By you trying to force 50% representation, and don't tell me there's not a quota, because you flat out said there was quotas. You try to force certain levels of representation where you just don't have the numbers to pull that off. So what you end up doing is forcing people in there that may or may not have the merit to be there, and you end up with a terrible product that suffers for it. And that's the biggest issue from all of this. That's not to say that every white person is amazing at the job, and that's not to say every black person or non-white person is terrible at the job. But if you're trying to focus on the skin color of the person you're hiring first, instead of what they're capable of and what they're able to do based on their merit, yeah, you're probably going to end up with a lot of bad examples. It says that DEI policies are to promote fairness and encouraging the hiring and advancement of underrepresented groups as a mean of tackling bias and prejudice. They typically do not mandate hiring quotas, they do, or specify that individuals must be hired on the basis of their race and gender, they do. Some companies might set voluntary goals to hire underrepresented groups as a means to address historical discrimination. So let's read this comment. As you can see, she contradicts herself, noting that there are no quotas and then admits that there are indeed quotas. So yeah, that's what I was going to say. This person flat out just said that they do not mandate hiring quotas or specify that individuals must be hired based on their race or gender. They do. Like that's the entire purpose of DEI hiring. DEI hiring, you literally just said, is to give opportunities to try to fight biases and prejudice against non-white people. That's basically it. Let's just be real. Non-white people. So you are trying to say this, and then you are trying to say in the same breath that there is no quota or there's no mandate on race or gender. What the fuck are you talking about? If there's no mandate on race or gender, then there's no reason for DEI to exist, because you would just be hiring people. That's it. And that's what you should be doing. Hiring people based on their merit who are good for the job. That's what you should be doing. But you want to focus on race. You want to focus on skin color. You want to make this into something because you want marginalized people, in your mind anyway, to stay marginalized. You want to continue this narrative that black people or all non-white people are marginalized. They're beneath white people. They need our help. They need the white man's help. You got to pass the microphone so they can be able to speak to you. That's how these people think. And you got to be honest with yourselves and realize that maybe, just maybe, you might be the racist that you say you're trying to fight against so much. And then it says, law continued, diversity can mean a lot of things. It's not just race or gender, but class, background, experience, and neurodivergence. I've always said I personally place a large value in neurodivergence and diversity of thought. Shut the fuck up, bro. There is nobody, I'm telling you right now, who shills for DEI that also advocates for diversity of thought. Not a single one of you motherfuckers do that thing. And that's why we make fun of you. That's why you're trying to say this in an interview right now, because you know this is the talking point currently right now. We call out your lack of diversity of thought all the time. None of you think differently. All you think the same. You want to call me an echo chamber where I literally surround myself by 8 people who think differently from me. Sure, we have some common ground, but have you seen us argue before? Let's be real, man. These people never argue amongst themselves other than to try to eat their own if they ever stepped out of line. They all think the same. They all want to be the same. They all shill for the same exact thing. It is literally the example of an echo chamber by definition. It says, after claiming it's not about race or sex, she would then confirm that that's exactly what it is. I don't agree with hiring anyone other than the perfect person for the job, regardless of gender or race. But guess what? Turns out that often means hiring a woman or a person of color these days. If you're on art Twitter, you know it's highly competitive, and the number one thing to say is portfolio is all that matters. If that's not meritocracy, I don't know what is, bruh. Oh my God, she just flat out said that I don't agree with hiring anyone other than the perfect person for the job. But that also means mostly hiring women and people of color these days. What the? Are you kidding me right now? Dude, the memes make themselves at this point. The jokes absolutely write themselves. This person is lying through their teeth. I don't need to continue with this anymore. This person is a complete, absolute fucking liar. And we know that they are all for DEI because that is what they shill for. That is what benefits them as a company. That is how they get their funding. That is how they continue to get more funding. Let's be real. DEI has never been about diversity of thought. It never will be about diversity of thought. And no matter how much you want to shill for it, it seems like all this DEI that you've been focusing on have only been making things on the most part worse. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.